Hey guys, Craig here, Product Manager at BrokerEngine. As we talk and as I do this video, we have new policies out around non-face-to-face from some lenders that have not allowed for non-face-to-face in previous times. ANZ is sort of one of those examples where, generally speaking, you couldn't do a non-face-to-face interview. It had to be in person. And I want to show you how I would quickly update our systems to manage that. And the main thing, of course, we want to manage is firstly that we are compliant with ANZ's new process, but trying to remember every lender's process can be tricky. So what I want to do is I want a system that that gets ingrained into the system. So the first thing that needs to happen here is we need to, as part of the process, take photos of the client as we're on the screen share with them, take a snapshot of them holding up their ID, and then we need to complete this form. So this form, of course, is going to be saved in your Dropbox or OneDrive or something like that. So that's what needs to happen as a rough idea of the process. Again, you can build more on it, but the first part I'm worried about, of course, is making sure I'm compliant. I've done the screen share, I've taken a photo of that, and I've also had the team, when they come to prepare the submission, they've filled out that form. So the way I would do that, I'm going to do that in real time with you now. The first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to update my checklist. So the pre-submission checklist is a checklist that I have that the team will complete when they're preparing the submission. So what would happen is normally the deal would move into, say, stage 2 or 5, so prep for formal or formal approval. I would complete my handover checklist. We might need to do something in the handover checklist here, but at the moment it's got a VOI requirements satisfied. And if I tick on that, I've got to note how I've done that. Obviously, other items don't require the same thing. But your broker handover checklist might be more than this or less than this. When you're handing over to your team, you want to make sure you're handing over to the team in a way that they can pick it up and move the ball forward and get that loan settled for you. So I have a little handover checklist, and when this is complete, it will then allow me to mark the handover checklist task as done. In this case, it's going to warn me that I haven't done the checklist yet. I'll do it quickly. So I've just completed all the requirements in the checklist except for the VOI requirements satisfied. I'm going to tick yes. I'm going to go, ANZ, face to, Skype, FaceTime call, whatever I want, whatever note I want to make, just so I've got a written record there of how I did that. Once I've completed my handover checklist, it's going to prompt me to mark this task complete, because by marking that task complete, my workflow says there's now going to be a task for the team to prepare the submission. And the task just literally says, you've got to do this. And once you've done that, there'll be an email to the broker and mark this task complete. And it's linked to the pre-submission checklist. What does that mean? It means that the team cannot mark this task complete until the checklist is done. So it's saying that your process is that you've got to do this checklist first. So what goes in this process? So now we're up to the part where the team's going to be doing the checklist. And what I want to make sure here is that the team prepare that identity agent certification on my behalf. So at the moment, we'd have some different things that would pop into this pre-submission checklist based on different things. If I tick lender rebate and fast refi, you'll see the checklist is automatically sort of updating with items that the team need to do at this particular stage. So it's already got some functionality there that ensure that the team are doing the key critical things we don't want to miss at this particular stage. But what I want to do is add to that process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to manage checklist. I'm going to go into the particular, so here's where your checklist, you can obviously control what you have in yours. Out of the box, we give you our default checklists, and you can adjust those as fits your practice. But I want to go and manage the checklist item. And what I want to do is under the pre-submission, I want to have one here that says, and so I've just added in one here that's called Prepare ANZ Identity Certification from all applicants. And in the tooltip, I can put a little video there to, the first time I do one, if I've got a new team member, they're jumping on board, they may not know how to fill it out or what it means. So I can do a quick Loom video. Loom's really good for quick videos. And I could also, for example, even put a link to the Dropbox link or wherever I find the form. That'd be another way to do it as well. So it's really, really easy for the team to find the form and so on. But obviously, I only want this form to be done when the lender is ANZ and it's a non-face-to-face process. I think if it's face-to-face, I'm not sure if that form needs to be completed. Maybe it does. But if the lender equals A, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this checklist display criteria to only show when the lender is ANZ. So now the requirement to complete that form is only going to show when the lender is ANZ. I could also go one step further and say, look, only show it when the lender is ANZ and deal indicator, non-face-to-face process is required. So if I tick the deal indicator, I can then make sure it only shows if those two things are met. At the moment, I think I'll just do it for ANZ. So I'll click save on that, and now I've updated my process. If I go back to the particular deal, And now back on the deal, we'll now see that because the lender in this particular case is ANZ, there's now an item there to complete that form. And of course, the user can scroll over here and see the Loom video or the link to the actual document itself. And that's sort of one way to ensure that, you know, when your team come to do the checklist, they're doing the key things that you're likely to forget to do. Obviously, you could put in here things around check income and double check no late payments and things like that, but they're normally going to do that anyway. What you want to do is the things in your checklist, keep them to the critical stuff that's going to hold your deal up from being approved that you might forget for a particular lender. So there's one example of using the checklist to ensure that you can quickly implement that VOI process. And as part of your broker handover process, you could do the same thing. You could do different items in here for different lenders that only show up when the lender is one bank versus another bank, and so on and so forth. The second thing you could do, if you really want to get really granular about it, is you could actually do a workflow that literally just sends an email to you with that form. So for example, you could go into your workflow templates, you go, you know, 05, you give it a name, you know, 05, you know, ANZ form or something like that. Your trigger condition here is only going to be, you only want this workflow to trigger when the lender equals ANZ as an example, and you want it to trigger when the deal moves into stage 2 or stage 5. So you could do it. So you could do it stage 2, stage 5, or both. So when the deal moves into that stage, if the lender's ANZ, we then have an email, and the email would literally be, you'd create a little template, and I'll do one now. So I've just done a quick email template here. It just says ANZ form. It's going to go to the broker team, or you could do it like your admin email, or to you, whoever it is, doesn't really matter. And then, you know, and I've just put in here, look, this form needs to be completed. I've attached it. I've given the loan name and a link to the loan as well, if they need that. So that way you can, look, that's, you know, I probably wouldn't go that far. I'd probably just have it as part of the checklist with the video, but you could certainly make a workflow that will only trigger when the deal enters into this stage and only triggers when the lender is ANZ as an example. You then publish that workflow, and it's just going to send that email out to you on that change of stage. So that's one quick example of how you can implement updating your processes really quickly, update your checklist, update your email templates. You can use your Loom videos or a link to the actual Dropbox. But there's one example of managing that using the different tools inside of BrokerEngine. Anything sort of tweak your interest there, please reach out to brokerengine.com.au or support@brokerengine.com.au.